Okay, section 10.4, allocation of the monthly payment. This one's kind of hard, so you might want to listen. We've kind of looked like an allocation table before, where you have to find out how much interest there is, how much went to the principal, and then how much do you have left. So we're going to actually complete an allocation table. Today we're going to just check out how that is done, and also they'll ask you for how much is left after payment number 51 or something like that. So it's going to be 3 steps, and usually the ones with multiple steps are a little bit harder. So when you're making payments to your mortgage loan, part of your payment goes toward the amount you borrowed, which is your principal. Part of it goes toward your interest. At the beginning, most of your payment goes to interest, and at the end, most of your payment goes toward how much you borrowed. Whoever lends you the money wants their interest first, and then you can pay for the amount you borrowed. So that's kind of how it works. As your loan gets smaller, the amount toward interest gets less, and the amount toward your principal gets bigger every single time. Look at the table 10.3 on page 284. So this one shows 4 payments. It's not the whole table. Whoever you borrow the money from should be able to tell you, for instance, if you're halfway done, how much principal you have left, how much interest you have left, that kind of stuff. If you make extra payments, then it causes that table to be a little bit different than it was at the beginning. So let's look at the columns. On the far left is your payment number. Monthly payment should be the same, except for the very last one. So when we did loans for just random little things, that payment was the same until the very, very last one. They will catch up, or it'll be a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller than the payment. It depends on how much you have left to pay it. And usually you have to go to the bank for your last payment anyway, so they would tell you, if you want to pay this off today, here's how much it is. And then you'd write a check and away you'd go. The amount toward interest gets smaller every time. The amount for principal gets bigger every time. So eventually they're going to switch places, and you'll owe less, so you have less interest owed. And your balance on the loan will be on the far right. Every time you get a payment for a mortgage loan, you will get those numbers. So it'll tell you, here's how much you have left. Here's how much the payment is this time. Here's how much has gone toward interest. You'll get some of those things. So here's the first one. Rod and Carrie got a 30-year, $280,000 mortgage loan from State Bank and Trust. The interest rate is 8%. Their monthly payment is $2,055.20. They're only looking for the very first payment. So on the amount of interest, we have done this before. Principal times rate times time. We're doing monthly payments, so your time part will be 1/12 every time. For some of you, I think when we did this one, you didn't include that 1/12 back then. So make sure you put it in there now. So that's why I just put it right in there. For monthly payments, you won't ever pay more than 1/12 because 1/12 is how much 1 month is. So principal at the beginning, $280,000 times the interest rate, which is 8%, which is pretty high for our rates now, times 1/12. And you can do that all on your calculator. I don't have the fraction key on mine, so I'm just going to take 280,000 times 9%. You can do times 1 divided by 12 or just divide by 12 because times 1 doesn't do anything. So interest on the first payment, I think I might have typed in something wrong. Hold on. Oh, I typed in 9%. Hold on. Let me redo that. 8%. Okay. It should be $1,866.67. For these, if you want to set your calculators to 2 places, feel free to do that because all your answers are going to be money. If you've forgotten how to do that again, you can do, it's like by your decimal. If you do second in that one, you should take it off F and go to 2. Okay, so, and then it'll round it for you so you won't get any of these wrong. Every time you have an answer, it'll round to 2 places, so it should be okay. So then we look at their payment, $2,055.20. And we're going to subtract out that interest amount. So we're subtracting $1,866.67. to find out how much actually goes to principal. And make sure you are rounding these up every time before you start the next step. If you don't, it'll be a little bit off at the end. So right now, if you're looking at the table, monthly payment they gave us. The interest we just found, and it does match, $1866.67. Amount toward principal, $188.53. And then your new principal, this is the one that's a little confusing. When we started, we had borrowed $280,000. And you're going to subtract this one. So there's going to be a lot left to pay for these first payments because not very much goes toward what you borrowed. So $279,811.47. Now, that's that first line after payment number one at the very end. Now, instead of starting with $280,000, you start with this one. So if you had to do multiple questions like this, you'd bring this one down and then you'd do the same 3 steps that we just did. Each one would change amounts. Okay, so every answer you use again, but you got to make sure you have them in the right places. So we're going to do another one, but this one they kind of start in the middle somewhere instead of at payment number one. Okay, so and I can put this one back up when you guys are working so you can kind of see what you have to show. So with this one, the amount of principal you owe decreases with each payment that you make. See figure 10.4. So it gives exactly the same table, but it's in the middle of the payment schedule. They have payments 325, 26, and 27. They want us to do this for 328. So let's look at the table on that page. It's on 385. So payment 327 is right there. That's the amount we start with at the very, very end. So $59,910,06. This is actually the payment that we've been working on. It's just further down the schedule. We are still working with 8%, and this is still a monthly payment. So we'll multiply that out. And you get $399.40. So at the beginning, this person had $1,866.67 going toward interest. Now they only have $399. Okay, so the balance is less. That's why you owe less interest. So as it keeps getting smaller, this interest amount should get smaller as well. We take our payment, $2055.20, and subtract this answer out. Now the principal amount should be more than what it was before because we owe less money. So $1,665.80 is what they go toward principal now. The principal amount was only $188 on payment number one. So you can see that as it goes, you're paying a lot more toward what you borrowed at the end than at the beginning. And then your new principal was, what did we start with? $59,910, and this amount out. So they now owe $58,254.26. So even though it's in the middle, you can kind of see how the numbers have changed a little bit. At the beginning, you pay more interest. When you get to the middle, you pay less interest. More goes toward the amount you borrowed. So were the steps different this time? No, your numbers that you start with were different. That's the only thing. Because every answer, you swing down to the next step, and then you get your balance at the end. The one that you have to make sure you start with is what do they owe still? Don't always go back to 280 because then your numbers will always be the same, and they're not. As you pay, the numbers do change.